All right, good day, everybody. I am joined here with one of my best friends from, gosh, I think I met you for the first time in like seventh grade or something like
Yep,
this, the
it was
wonderful
seventh grade.
Tyler Crips.
How you
So,
doing, everybody?
and thank you for joining me on the first episode of my friendship series. Please bear with us. We're probably going to have some fun and learn as we go on here. But side note, Crispy is kind of a mild expert with all this good stuff. And so keep an eye on him because he's got a lot of really awesome things coming up. Hopefully, we can help him develop some of his dreams into reality.
Cool.
Today, for the friendship podcast, I wanted to take a moment and just talk about what a big influence Crispy has been in my life. You know, ever since we were kids, you've been such a genuine human being. I mean, just so authentic, so real. And that in itself is a rebellion. You know, it just shakes the world everywhere we go. You know, I've had the pleasure of living with you. I've had the pleasure of having my kids be around you. You just have this great big heart, and the love that you share with everybody and everything. No, doesn't. There's no doubt in my mind that it changes the world every single time. One of my most favorite stories of you is I remember going to a college party with you, and we walked into this house, and it was like total Hollywood, like, the music stopped and everybody's kind of looking at us all funny. And you jumped up and down and you like shook the house and you're like, yo, I'm Crispy. Who's ready to party? And then everybody just kind of exploded with your same energy and had such a good time.
It's
And
a
I remember when I first had Nicholas, and I was a really timid dad, and you came in and you grabbed him, and you were like throwing him around, and I was like, "Whoa, you can do that!" And you're like, "Yeah, man, like have fun, play, like that's what they love," and you really helped me break into even being a father. I mean, such a multitude of levels, and one other thing I just really want to highlight before we kind of get into our agenda is that you've been such a wonderful spiritual guide for me through life. I've had a barrage of information thrown at me, and every time I can come to you, and you're very clear and crisp about like what is truth, what is real, and that's just been such a blessing for me my entire life. So, yeah.
well, I feel all those comments are extremely flattering. I mean, I'm sure I've shaken the world, but not with awesomeness, just my mere size. Walking, you know, earthquakes happen as I move, but Josh, that is that is such a compliment, and it makes me realize I have a lot to live up to, really. And Josh, a lot of the things that I've drawn on or have inspired me are obviously from your rebellious nature. You always have been a person to grab people and shake them and be like, "Wake up!" Change your perspective. And um, I remember when we first knew each other, I thought it was pretty extreme, the way that you would just get on your soapbox in the middle of the hallways, like especially in high school. I remember you just wake up, everybody, uh, don't let them control you and things like this. And I remember you were really into Alex Jones at the time, who's who now has become this kind of right wing icon and stuff. But in the beginning, he was kind of the complete opposite. It's just it's so refreshing to see people not, especially you, walking through life with just blinders on. And that's why I was always so taken by you, Josh, by your boldness, and had always aspired to be like that, and I think that's what drew us to each other to begin with was, I guess people would call it radical nature. And the more I got to know you, the more I realized how in tune with the spirit or a higher power you are. And I really, it was something that I didn't really get to see at first until probably the first time I ever stayed the night over at your house. I remember your parents were still together. I think they were just going through um, separation, but it was at your old house in the Pinery. And I remember we played Twisted Metal on the original PlayStation. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, whoa, you have a PlayStation? So old school. And your father, was a different man at that time. And it was just such a different atmosphere because at school you were kind of this happy, outgoing, uh, radical socialite. You were like, everybody, we got to be in this together, and um, really trying to draw energy and build other people's energy up into being positive, being happy. And I just remember you were going through such a transition, um, and a hard one at that. And I realized that you were, I I don't know if that's when it started for you, when you started drawing or trying to focus into things spiritually, trying to find answers for yourself. But I could see that, when I went to your house, you kind of drew into your own mind and soul and what answers were for, I guess, the challenges you were having. And I'd never had to go through anything like that with my parents. My parents are still together. They've been together since they were 14, so they've been together for, oh wow, I mean, over 45 years, which is kind of mind blowing. And very few of our friends, have. I think it was just Robert and I that still have parents that are together. And um, I felt that's another thing that drew us together. I think was the the difference of family background, yet we still strive for the same goal, the same togetherness, the same team mentality. And you've always pushed me. Yeah, I think you push everybody and challenge everybody to find what their center is. um I'm from a more traditional Christian background, and you approach things more of a like an Eastern philosophy, or traditionally you have, uh, in the past. Meditation and emptying your mind, having answers just arrive instead of seeking for them, I guess. And approaching things in peace. Um, Me, I could say I was just. I think I was a little more aggressive in the way that I sought out answers, and but I would say one of my favorite moments with you, Josh, is I was just going through some hard things, and I was contemplating, what my next steps were. And one of my favorite phrases always has been "pray always." And I woke up one morning after, I had just been drinking the whole day before, or kind of a bender, and I woke up and you called me and you said, I know what tattoo we should get. Let's go get it. And and we were both thinking, pray always. You said, pray always. I was like, absolutely. That's the only thing I would ever have tagged on my arm. And and that really made a big difference to me as far as the succinctness as to our goals, and how we know how to find spirituality one with another. And I I would say I don't have one particular moment that's my favorite. I There's too many. There's way too many.
Well,
And but any moment that has some sort of spiritual um, backlighting to it, something that uh, we're both seeking an answer, because we always seem to find something new when we're together. And
I
that's what I appreciate.
I can completely agree. And that I think is the most fascinating thing about our friendship, right? Is that even after
Yeah.
all these years, there's still all this brand newness that's still
Yeah,
discovered, created, and built upon. You know,
exactly.
I'll the one of the things that hit me like a just like a cosmic 2x4, because I'm an only child, and let's face it,
Yeah.
I've been pretty self-centered and egotistical a lot of my life. And you were staying with us, and my dad and and I answered the phone, and you said, "Hey, tell so and so I say hello." And I kind of looked at you funny. And at the time, we were this magnet for people. And so, the people were just calling us, "What are you guys doing? Where are you going? What's up? What's happening tonight?" And every single person I talked to, within the first 3 words I said to them, you knew exactly who I was talking to. And because you were so in tune with my energy and how I connected with people, that you already knew who was on the other side of that phone. And still to this day, that just fascinates me.
Wow, I'd never noticed that actually. Yeah, I think everybody gives a subconscious cue as to who they're speaking with. They have a certain way of acting around certain people, and uh, but I think that was just us being in tune with one another. Obviously, I think that's wow. I can't even recall that moment. That was at the house in the Pinery. Someone call you and
Hidden River, actually.
Hidden River. Oh, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I was sleeping under the pool table.
Yes.
Those were great times. That was I think that's when we really became really connected, just as a family unit as brothers. I thought it was wonderful living with your dad. He took me in after, obviously I was kicked out of my house, and um, I went through a tough time. I had a DUI, and I needed to live, in town. I couldn't be so far out. I was out of car. And you and your dad, without question, just brought me in. And, and of course, there were some boundaries set because of Rain. Your dad was dating Rain at the time. And uh, I think I really do feel bad for Rain in that situation, because it really just became the boys' house. You know, I can't imagine how intimidating that could be uh, for someone like Rain. And the honest truth is, I liked Rain, plenty
Still
enough,
like rain. Hmm.
and but I know that uh, while I lived there, she definitely had her resentments towards me.
Well, the thing about it is when you're so young like that, and particularly like you were saying, we were abrasive. I mean,
Yeah,
we didn't hold back anything. It's only been in the last few years have I grown, I think, what most people call tact,
right.
and an ability to do that. And we've also both had a unique specialty or gift to connect with people. And so when you can connect with somebody and also be so abrasive at the same time, like you said,
Yeah,
it can be overwhelming. And I think that's another thing. What I love so much about our friendship is because, and maybe that's why I feel like everywhere we go, we have the opportunity to change the world. We have the opportunity to shift the universe into a completely different outcome, because it's, we have that ability, that energy. And I want to talk about that for a quick second.
yeah,
You were one of the first people who enlightened me to energy in that way, in the way that you can influence, you can speak. And then not only that, by being hyper aware of when spirit enters into conversation, when you're being guided, the complexity, but yet the simplicity, like the true Zen that goes into that, and how that is a modern miracle. And that is one of the main reasons why we even exist. It's how we can tap into our destiny. It's how we can feel our purpose, and you really just help guide me into that, and still do to this day, and talk about true friendship, talk about, true ability. And I know you've shared with me in the past that in your beliefs, we all kind of sat down before we came to this physical plane, and had a conversation, and I could totally see you being like, I will challenge you and help you become the person you need to be. And what other better platform to build friendship on?
You know, Josh, I just want to make a point. You say that I guided you or you taught you somehow, and the reality is I didn't sit you down and talk to you about a lot of these things. I just want everybody to understand that Josh just picked up these things on his own. You really, I think you just observed one thing in me, maybe, and you just took off with it.
Well, I see it as a,
You know,
a discovery together,
yeah,
like
exactly.
like if I could use a horrible metaphor, right? Like if we're on the beach and I start building a sandcastle and you come over with a bigger bucket and you're like, check this out, bro, boom, and then I'm like, whoa, and then and then we
Oh,
keep
and then you
building.
have big ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I could tag on with that. We could do that, And so I also really wanted to capture, you make friends. Probably one of the most easiest friend maker. I'm sorry, lost my whole train of thought there, but you're capable of making friends easier than anybody else I've ever met in my entire life. In fact, I always thought it was hilarious because you were always going to bring somebody new to come hang out every time we were doing something.
Yeah.
And in a world that we live in right now, where we have COVID phobia, we have prejudice phobia, we have all this stuff where we're second guessing ourselves and trying to thinking of if we're even in an appropriate space. I thought maybe you could share a little bit about how you're capable of connecting and building friendships so easily.
Well, I think to go back to you said that in my belief, we sat down before we even came to Earth. Really, what I truly believe in is that um, in the beginning we were a consciousness, uh, and we were all there together, and we may even have been, of one consciousness. Uh, we all come from the same source,
Mm-hmm.
with the same energy, and we need to remember that we're all connected in that way since the beginning. Even though atoms have been formed and we have our own personal bodies and entities, we still come from that same source. And it's important to um, remember that, in both acquiring friends and uh, understanding people, where they're coming from, and not being afraid to get to know people, is remembering that we are all of the same energy. We are the same entity, so to speak. And yeah, our country, the world is going through a very hectic time. There's a lot of division going on. I would say the adversary uh, wants division. um, we crumble as a unit when when we divide ourselves from one another this way. Uh, and whatever powers that may be that want this to happen, I don't think it's merely a political thing. It's a spiritual thing. Um, and the honest truth is that I don't have any particular political stance. In fact, I I don't like any of it because they both promote division in one way or another. I think it's really up to at least in our country, the American people, to draw together and find a point of unity. I don't like that they break us into a two-party system. They kind of force us to choose one of two evils. I think that's ridiculous. And we should be able, as this energy, to come together, unify, and make them change that. A lot of people are afraid of that. And the pandemic has made that even greater. You know, it's dividing people. And whenever the power, you know, I really think this is a battle. It's a war going on, a spiritual war, not a political one. I think the real source of everything that's going on is just trying to divide us. And I think the most important thing to remember right now um, is remember that we are all one. Don't go around saying, "Oh, you know what? You're different in some way. Uh, your opinion is different than mine." Opinions are opinions, but true truth, is what should unify us. And people are forgetting that. Um, you know that everyone should realize that everyone's lives matter. Black, white, Asian, Latino, and that we have commonalities. I think really if we can focus on the things that we have in common first and build on them, then when you know, a controversial topic comes up, it is so much easier to find a compromise and to respect one another's feelings, because we have built upon the common ground first. And that is a huge part of friendship. Is when you meet someone, be open. You know, you don't want to be too in your face, but you know, be genuine and look them in the eye and say, "Hi, you know, hi, I'm Tyler Crisp. Uh, you know, I was just really interested in knowing more about you. What's your name?" And have them share something. And you know, typically you kind of have to break the ice per se. And the best way to do that is be open about yourself. Um, and the thing is in the past, yeah, I've been very overwhelming, almost like a salesman, and or just really in your face, a really loud person, real loud personality. And I mean, it's been great. Uh, but really being a good listener and honing in to other people's feelings uh, really brings to pass respect and understanding for one another. And true deep friendship is honing into that energy. And I think the best way to do that is synchronize your breathing with someone when you first meet them. Uh, Mimic their body language and breathe in sync with them. And before you know it, your heartbeats will be in sync. And that immediately creates a unity. And they won't even notice it, or they'll notice that all of a sudden they like you. You know, they're in sync with you somehow, and they'll start sharing things like, "Man, I don't know why I never tell anybody this," or whatever. And it's because you're literally becoming synced with them on a physical and metaphysical level. And you're literally putting yourself in their shoes. And I believe that would really be a huge cure to everything that's going on around the world, especially politically, is if we were able to just look each other in the eye and succinct those physical and metaphysical patterns so that we can feel one another's energy, pain, love, and and then any dispute that there may be, you know, because if we start out, you know, on different platforms and we meet one to one, they'll resist the energy will always resist or will, break apart and go through one another. Um, and, luckily for me, I just learned those things from my father, really. My dad and a lot of church uh, leaders. And the thing is I learned a lot of that stuff subconsciously
Mm.
also. And I never have to think about it,
Right.
but it's just become a pattern of knowing that, hey, I need to understand this person. I need to listen. And the best thing to do that is to sync up. And anyone in digital terms, with your phone, you got to sync it with your computer.
Right.
Download your drivers so that you're compatible. um, I would recommend that everybody does this. Everybody, especially with people that have different opinions than yours, so that you can find out why do they feel that way? Why do they think that way? Um, and gain an understanding, gain an understanding of the other person before even speaking your ground, your whatever your agenda is. Truly sync yourself with the opposer, I guess, gain perspective of their agenda before you even make a platform on yours. Because believe it or not, I mean, I've noticed like I would say more than 90% of the time, your agenda, the true base of why your beliefs are going to be the same. They're going to be exactly the same. Most everybody, all their beliefs, and whether it's political or spiritual, are all based on love um, and unity. Yet, the media or whoever, I just call it the adversary, uh, wants us to believe that we're coming from different backgrounds, that we have a different belief. And so just take the time to do that. And Josh, you have the ability to do that. I've seen you do it. What makes you such a good friend is you're exactly that. You're a good listener, and you pay attention to what everybody has to share long before you even speak a word. I think we both, at least I had an issue of not being able to do that when I was younger, actually. It was easy to make friends because I was charismatic, but friends and family, like that line, that's what makes the difference, is that synchronicity.
And one last thing
Mhm.
before we go ahead and end this awesome episode is, it always hasn't been glitters, rainbows, and unicorns. We've had
Yeah.
some downs before, and your ability to forgive has always been fascinating to me. And not only forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. And I think that's a huge part of relationships, whether it's friendships or even family. And it never ceases to amaze me when I hear somebody say, well, they did something that's unforgivable. And it's like this dagger that hits my heart sometimes. And so, you being this individual who has this multitude of understanding into forgiveness and maybe just even practice of forgiveness, I just wanted you to maybe share your perspective of that before we kind of wrap everything up today.
Okay. Yeah. Honestly, it's the hardest. It is the hardest step, I think, in friendship and love is forgiveness. Uh, don't get me wrong. Like I may practice it, but it's not easy. Uh, and but remembering, there's a couple different things about forgiveness. I would say, um, always, oh, you can always expect perfection out of yourself, but not out of anyone else. Um, that is a huge realization you have to come to. that's why it's so hard to forgive yourself, typically more than it is to forgive other people. Um, Again, it's a second step to that is finding that synchronicity with that person, um, because then you gain the perspective of the people that you faulted or have faulted you. Never go into an argument with assumptions, um, and remembering the bigger picture and remembering love and what it really is. I've always been told that charity is the purest love of all. Um, and you have to forgive people, not just your friends and your family, but your enemies, and wish them well, wish them good things in their life. And remembering the reward that you get when you do those things is a huge motivator. Quite literally, the universe will start working for you because you're pushing everything in a positive direction. And when it's just a magnetism, the more you stay positive and forgive, there's less of the negative, and you're magnetic. Good things start pulling towards you.
Mm.
You're a positive energy that literally attracts other positive energy. I mean, you can attract the negative too, but it's easier to see and know. And you can change that energy in people. You can't expect anyone to forgive you unless you forgive them.
It's interesting. While you were saying that, I had a sudden realization that maybe that's one of the biggest reasons why you're able to connect with so many people is when you don't have forgiveness, it's like dragging around baggage, right? And so
Absolutely, yeah.
before you even come into meeting a new person, you have all of this stuff that you're filtering through. But if you've forgiven and moved on, it's cleared out. And now you have this opportunity for a new. And, the new quantum theory talks a lot about this is that
Yeah.
if you're not open to a new experience, you're just going to be constantly creating your past over and over again. I
Yep.
never realized how, forgiveness really connected to that and really made that a practice in being able to keep such an open mind and to be able to really create new experiences.
Absolutely, Josh. You've been the greatest at that, is being open to new experiences and gaining a perspective of other people. I could say you've forgiven me a countless number of times, and that's inspirational to forgive others also. And that positive energy actually helps wounds heal and creates new pathways, as you're talking about. Staying on a one-track mind, you kind of damn yourself. You kind of forcing yourself to live in one way. And I'm trying to remember who said this, but anyone who is adverse to change is bound to die. Um, so growth and change is great. I think people need to embrace that in the spiritual aspect too. A lot of people get stuck in a religious sense, or at least I should say organized religion sense, that this is how it always is. The main core beliefs of any religion is love. Is love one another. Most everything else changes because the world is changing. People change. We evolve. And being able to embrace that and recognize that, and really all religions do. At least to my understanding, they all preach of love. And if we can embrace that, then we can change in so many ways that are so positive, not only for ourselves, but everybody else around us.
It's super funny. When we were younger, and I'm sure you can contest to this, I thought I had so much to tell the world. I thought I, needed to educate every single person I ever met on, all these different things. And it's really funny. The older I get, the less I really feel like I have to say to anybody. And it's actually been a hiccup in doing these podcasts because I don't really feel like there's a lot, that I have to say anymore, to many people. And that's one thing that you inspire in me. I feel the energy now. Like I feel
Yeah.
clarity, and I feel that just fantastic ability to just be one. And I think that this is a fantastic start to our friendship series, and to really kind of launching a perspective that will hopefully shift and bring more love into everybody's life. Hopefully the people who watch this and who get to experience this. So, you
Yeah.
know, any closing thoughts before we go ahead and close this out?
Uh, I would just say thank you for having me, Josh.
Oh,
I really hope that I get to do this with you again. Actually, this is it's quite a treat, and I definitely feel the energy here on this side too. Uh, and just hope that everybody has something to gain from it. And Josh, I just know you're going to have success in this, and the topics, the things that you have to share with people, the, those things will come up naturally. The people will come to you. You don't have to, be you can be boisterous and sharing everything, like you said. Like you're much more reserved now, um, but just living the principles of friendship and love uh, will raise the curiosity of people asking, how do you do that?
very
I
good.
can't think of any other teacher better than you.
Thanks, man. That's super awesome. That's great, and I really thank you for that. Thank you for being here, taking time out, and yeah, you better believe that we're going to continue to have the crispy Joshua experience.
I
Have,
love you, Josh.
I'm going to stop recording.